So Steve Carper has been with Tualatin Valley Water District for 15 years, started in 2006 as the district's conservation technician focused on commercial accounts, and he currently coordinates the district's conservation programs. Steve's professional background includes over 25 years in the Willamette Valley landscape industry with experience in construction, irrigation, and maintenance. He also served 2 terms on the Oregon State Landscape Contractors Board and is a certified landscape irrigation auditor. Steve holds degrees from University of Oregon in geography and environmental studies and landscape architecture, and graduate certificates from Portland State University in geographic information science, so GIS, and the business of craft brewing. So lots of, Steve, you've done a lot of things. So outside of work, Steve enjoys, Steve enjoys making beer semi-professionally and at home, and he and his wife, Debbie, live in Beaverton and are the proud parents of an 11-month-old son. So with all that, thanks again, Steve, for joining us today. Appreciate your time. I'll stop sharing my screen and let you share yours and take it away.
My pleasure. Thank you. Well, appreciate the opportunity. And I just want to make sure, okay, can you all see the presentation again?
Not yet.
Okay, let me reshare that. Back up?
There we go. Yep.
There we go. Good. Okay, great. My notes are back. They disappeared for a second, so I got a little bit nervous.
Yeah, get settled in there. You're good to go?
Yep, good to go. You guys can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera, and away we go. So thanks for that kind introduction. We're going to just jump right in. Let's see. For some reason, it's not advancing. Let me try this. There we go. So our agenda today, we don't have a lot of time to talk about water conservation and all the different aspects that can touch, but we're gonna talk a little bit about commercial applications for water efficiency. But keep in mind, as we go through today, a lot of the things we're going to talk about are applicable in the residential setting as well. It'll be pretty obvious which of those are and which of those aren't relevant at home. But keep that in mind, and we'll also provide some resources that you specifically for home use. So going to try and cover a lot of bases in a short amount of time. We're going to give a little bit of a background on Tualatin Valley Water District specifically and sort of the west side water providers in Washington County to be familiar with. We'll talk about why is efficient water use important in the first place? Why do we care? I'll try to make a business case for water efficiency, a very simple start. And again, focusing on some common commercial, industrial, and institutional water efficiency measures. I'll present some conservation services and resources that are available to you from TVWD and from other West Side water providers and the city of Portland as well, just kind of trying to cover all the bases depending where our attendees are from today. So you're aware of what sort of support is available to you. We'll touch on some emerging technology that's pretty exciting from a conservation standpoint and ways that we are planning for the future at TVWD and other water districts around the state and around the country, really. And we'll wrap it up with hopefully some questions and discussion at the end. So just to sort of orient ourselves, Tualatin Valley Water District is one of the larger West Side water providers, also in Washington County. We are part of what is called the Joint Water Commission, which is sort of a conglomerate of West Side water providers that get our resources from the Coast Range. TVWD serves about 218,000 customers presently. We have 60,000 metered connections. Connected by 739 miles of pipe in a service area that covers about 45 square miles. About 95% of our meters are residential. So most of our customers are indeed residential, and about 5% are of that commercial, industrial, institutional. And interestingly, about 75% of our consumption is residential, and 25% goes to that 5% commercial customers. So it really is a significant portion of our customer base, even though it doesn't seem that way. We have entities like Nike and Intel, Maxim, semiconductor producers. So we do have a significant amount of industry. St. Vincent's, Providence St. Vincent Hospital, and Kaiser as well. So we do have a pretty diverse customer base, and so we try and provide resources to everybody to help folks be efficient that are interested in doing that. As I mentioned, our sources, the west side, we get about 40% of our supply from what I mentioned was the Joint Water Commission coming out of the Tualatin Trask system and Scoggins and Barney reservoirs in the Coast Range. This time of year, we're also augmenting our supplies with aquifer storage and recovery, and that's the system where during the winter months, when we have lots of natural recharge, we're actually pumping treated water down into our local aquifer. And then this time of year, when we're drawing down on our storage, we are actually recovering that water and pumping that out into the system. Then the other 60% comes from the city of Portland and the Bull Run water system. And at this time of year, we're also augmenting that arm of our supply through the Columbia South Shore well fields. We're also a part of what's called the Regional Water Providers Consortium, and that's really a really great group comprised of 24 water provider members serving Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington counties. The core focus for this group is conservation, emergency preparedness, and water supply planning. It's, to say the least, it can be challenging for customers just in the Portland metro area. Again, there are 24 different water providing entities. So it can be a little bit tricky sometimes if you're not sure who your water provider is, to figure that out. And our boundaries aren't necessarily as logical as one might think. If you don't know who your water provider is, either through your home or through your business, really encourage you to check out the Regional H2O. That's the website for the consortium. They've got a great water provider lookup tool. So just for general knowledge, that's a good thing to know. You probably do through your water bills, but if not, check it out. But in the event of an emergency or some sort of a curtailment event, that can be a really useful tool to confirm, where's your water coming from? Am I being impacted by some type of an event, and what steps that you may need to take next? So a really great resource there. The other thing that's really nice about this organization is, not all of these entities have the same size customer base and therefore the same amount of resources to provide conservation and emergency preparedness resources and messaging. And so the consortium really provides us a mechanism to achieve some economies of scale, but also to develop a unified voice and a clear message to the public in general. All of our systems are indeed unique and distinct, but we're also generally connected so that we can help each other out. And this is the organization that really helps us do that. So again, really encourage folks, particularly on the residential side, to check out regionalh2o.org. There's just a tremendous amount of resources in terms of conservation tips, brochures, do-it-yourself videos, as well as emergency preparedness. Same thing, brochures on water storage and things that you can do to be prepared in the event of an emergency. So really take advantage of that resource. So why is efficient water use important? Well, we all love the quality of life we have here in Oregon, the Portland metro area, and specifically, Tualatin Valley Water District, if I can toot our own horn. It's a big part of why folks from around the country and around the world choose to make this area their home and their place of business. The critical resource that sustains our quality of life and the economic engine is our safe, abundant, reliable water supply. Fortunately, our area is not in a water supply crisis. However, as this spring has been one of the driest on record, and this summer has been the hottest on record. Gosh, that that episode about a month ago was pretty extraordinary, and is a sobering reminder that we all need to use our water resources efficiently to sustain all of the beneficial uses that we all enjoy. Things like public health and safety, drinking water, fire prevention, habitat, and recreation, just to name a few. Um, Fortunately, I mentioned that we're not in a crisis. It's been a long time. In fact, in my career, the 15 years that I've been with the district, we've never had to go into a stage 2 curtailment, any sort of mandatory water restriction due to a drought, as I knock on the mahogany there. But again, this year has been a great reminder that it's good to be prepared, and it's really nice to live in an area that is proactive and progressive in terms of trying to be good stewards of our water resources. So just briefly, I would like to touch on the topic of drought because, as I mentioned, our local area is not in a crisis. However, if we zoom out to the state level and we zoom out even farther to the West Coast, that's not really the case. Um, if you look at the drought monitor update, you can see that most of the West is anywhere from a moderate to an exceptional drought state right now. And I'm sure most of you heard within the last couple of weeks that Governor Brown has declared drought throughout the state of Oregon and implemented some pretty drastic and necessary measures across the state, and state-owned facilities are no longer allowed to water their land, irrigate their landscape or operate fountains, as you see in the picture on the right. As this graphic also indicates in the small little text box, is that local conditions may vary, and that's another unique thing about water supply is it's very much watershed driven. And we are extremely fortunate in our local area by the nature of our sources that we're not in the same extreme drought condition that most of the rest of our region is. The Bull Run system and the JWC system are really largely rain driven reservoirs, surface water sources. And because of that, our supplies are actually looking pretty good. The City of Portland and the Joint Water Commission both have issued statements that we do not foresee a water supply shortage for our customers. And I'm talking specifically to us, City of Portland and Westside customers. If we do get into a situation where we foresee any sort of necessary curtailment, we certainly will get that message out through agencies like the Regional Water Providers Consortium. But at this point, we're actually looking pretty good. So we can consider ourselves very, very fortunate compared to a lot of our neighbors. So again, it's just another reason to encourage us to be good stewards of that resources. The one exception I will point out regionally in terms of the consortium, might be our neighbors down in Clackamas County that are a little more driven by the Clackamas River resource. That one can be a little bit more susceptible, particularly late in the season, to low water use. But again, very fortunate that we do have a high degree of interconnectedness with our folks, so we can hopefully help support them through any curtailment issues that they may encounter. But feel good about our resources, and we'll let you know if we looks like we're going to get into any low supply situation. So moving on to making the business case for water efficiency, as if many of you may have realized, if you're a facility manager or if you're a domestic manager, for the past several years, the cost of water and wastewater services have risen at a rate that is above the consumer price index. And managers should expect this trend to continue with water and other utility costs as we need to offset the cost of developing new sources and replacing aging water supply systems. Most likely not to the same degree that we've seen in the last few years, but water rates are certainly not anticipated to go down. So it really emphasizes the importance of providing resources to our customers to help them be more efficient and to manage their own use more effectively so that they can hopefully offset some of those costs, and particularly try to avoid situations where you're incurring costs unnecessarily. The benefits of implementing water efficiency for commercial industrial facilities include, as we said, reducing those operational costs, optimizing equipment to function as efficiently as possible, creating more sustainable practices, or being good stewards of our resources, and also decreasing energy bills where we're talking about situations where we're talking about using heated water. That has a big and significant impact on energy, particularly in the commercial sectors. And it's, there's lots of opportunity in the commercial industrial sector to reduce water use by incorporating water efficient fixtures, technologies, and techniques. And so, I mentioned to Jennifer earlier, we just really encourage folks. There's a lot of different ways you can go, but just encourage folks to dive in and just get started. It's hard to screw this up. You'll start learning, and you'll figure out what sorts of things you can do in your own home or your own business to improve your water use. So just start to develop a water management plan, and the easiest way to do that is to establish a baseline. And when I get a phone call from a customer, be it residential or commercial, the first thing I can do, or that I do, is produce what's called I call 5-year water use history. I'll throw it into Excel and I'll generate a graph like you see here on the right. And I'll just look for, what's going on. Is there a baseline water use? Is there some consistent patterns here? And well, obviously this is a bit of a dated data set here. The lesson holds true and is really useful. I see this same sort of thing all the time. This is a commercial example, obviously, but what we see here is a really good example of what we call our seasonal or summer peak water use that's driven generally by irrigation and cooling activities in the commercial setting, and at home generally by irrigation. Not to this extreme, but we see this same sort of pattern in many residential accounts that have outdoor irrigation. So you see this summer peak water use, and obviously from year to year, it's varying in degree and length. And often that is driven by weather conditions. Not every summer is necessarily as hot or dry or as long. And so the key takeaway that I want folks to see in that summer peak is that irrigation and cooling uses can dramatically increase your baseline water use. We often say by 2 to 3 times. In this case, it's looking more like 4 to 5 times. So it really presents a huge opportunity to attack that summer peak water use. And in most cases, it's probably the easiest low-hanging fruit in terms of opportunities to achieve savings with little effort and lower cost investment. Over to the right, the thing I want you to see here in this last 7 months really sort of drives the importance of having somebody in the commercial setting that's really familiar with this baseline water use and is sort of charged with keeping an eye on the bills as they're coming in. What you can see here is that at the end of the irrigation season, rather than returning down to our consistent baseline winter average or close to it, we've kind of stayed up here at about 2 to 3 times that. And this condition has gone on for about 7 to 8 months before anybody reached out to try and take some action. So if you have somebody that's keyed into this, that kind of knows where our monthly and annual water use should be, that can really be a red flag indicator that, hey, let's give the water district a call, or let's check in with facilities to see, is there something out of whack? Is there a valve that's stuck? Is the irrigation system off? What's going on that's driving this increased water use? These water use assessments, that's kind of the next step, is to engage in a water use either internally, or you can reach out to TVWD, folks like myself, to help you with that. And other agencies like Hillsborough and Portland will also have staff available that can assist. But water use assessments really help managers and owners understand how much water their facilities are using and which processes require the most water. It also identifies potential water saving opportunities and can estimate the payback periods that will assist in prioritizing measures in order to achieve those savings goal that you will develop. Um, as you perform these assessments, you will generally uncover small and sometimes significant leaks. Leaks should obviously be repaired immediately. It seems to be a no-brainer, but as the graph indicates, you'd be surprised at how long these conditions can actually go on before action is taken. Um, Develop an ongoing leak detection strategy. So something as simple, again, as empowering one person to do an annual survey, or engage staff, engage the people that are working directly with the equipment throughout a facility, whether you have a production kitchen, um, things that you really want to talk to the people that are familiar with the equipment on a day-to-day basis, that can help identify and feel empowered to speak up to help remedy problems or opportunities to upgrade. If you have a sustainability committee or a green team, this can be a great way to provide them with a tangible ongoing project for continuous improvement in the organization, and something that they can work on continuously. Create incentives, things like recognition for staff at all employee meetings, or gift cards, for somebody that identifies a broken sprinkler head, or things like that. Some things that are that simple can really have a big impact in your ongoing ability to identify and take action quickly. Also, consider some sort of little bonuses, different little pats on the back for employees, or family members too, for that matter, to help be proactive in the water efficiency in the agency or the home. Let's see if I can get back to my screen here. So let's talk a little bit about commercial kitchens. Water demand is really high in food preparation and cleanup settings. Any facility that serves food, including cafeterias, restaurants, hotels, schools, hospitals, can find many opportunities to reduce their use. And we're just going to talk about a few here. Pre-rinse spray valves and steamers, I actually have a couple slides on, so we're gonna skip ahead to dipper wells, and you can actually see one in the photograph here. This is one of my favorites to pick on in the commercial setting. Basically, it's a little holder for ice cream scoops and cake servers, things of that nature. And you can see they kind of sit in this trough, and there's a little water feeding. That little J hook coming over the side feeds water constantly into this device. And in the drain, there's just a little pipe that sticks up about 3/4 away, such that the serving utensils are covered in water, and there's a continuous flow of water over those utensils and then down the drain. These devices can use up as much as 500 gallons per day. And in many cases, they're also using heated water. So there's some embedded energy in that as well. So for about $500, typically you can upgrade these to not a waterless utensil, but a utensil that you basically is set on a timer and is heated. So the utensils are kept in above 140 degrees to mitigate any sort of bacterial growth. And then there's a timer that goes off that cues staff to replace the water on a regular basis. But we're talking there about the difference of about 3 to 5 gallons per day, perhaps, as compared to 500 gallons per day. So big opportunity for water savings in a device like that. Similarly, things like wok stoves, things that have a constant flow of water used for cooling, can use a tremendous amount of water. So it's another really big opportunity to see, is there a way to upgrade to a new system that uses less, and what sort of simple payback would you see by replacing that? Commercial dishwashers are another great example of opportunities. There's, you know, all sorts of sizes depending on the scale of the operation, from simple corner units to the enormous, you know, rotating fleet and rack systems that are basically could fit in a small office. But upgrading to an Energy Star qualified commercial dishwasher on average can save around $900 per year on energy bills, in addition to around 52,000 gallons per water or more, and that can be the equivalent of about $200 on water bills. Great opportunity just to make sure that those devices are well tuned and that you have the most efficient internal nozzles set up. So really working with your commercial dishwasher service provider is a great way to identify, hey, is this device optimized in terms of its setup? Is it functioning properly? Do I have any opportunities to upgrade nozzles internally to use less water but still maintain effectiveness? Do I have my chemicals set up optimally so that we're minimizing the use there? Really a good opportunity to make sure that that thing is dialed in and performing efficiently. Ice machines are another great opportunity. It's pretty common to encounter machines that are still water cooled. So you'll actually have a small water line connected to that ice machine that goes through and works on the condenser coils to keep them cool. And then oftentimes there'll be a floor sink near that ice machine where you'll see a pretty consistent flow of water. If you're in a situation where the environment that this ice machine is located in can handle a little bit more heat, it's a great idea to consider changing out to an air-cooled ice machine. Will save a lot of water. But again, one thing to be aware of in that situation is, would I be adding more heat to this area than would really be wise in terms of employee comfort and productivity? So it's just something to be aware of there. Pre-rinse spray valve. So this is a big one that unfortunately I have more experience with than I care to remember. I've spent more than my fair share of time on the gun, as we used to call it. Back in my college days, I worked in a commercial hospital setting back in Eugene and spent a lot of time with a pre-rinse spray valve. And the trickiest thing in working with these is to not spray them directly into a ladle and end up with a face full of water. But aside from that, in terms of the potential water savings, it really is a huge opportunity, particularly in like a healthcare setting or a commercial kitchen where you may have 3 rounds of meals and you've got somebody back in a pots and pans setting where they're using this device exclusively for multiple hours per day. The older units use anywhere from 2 to 5 gallons per minute, whereas the new standards are really getting down there in terms of their low water use. And not only is it just a matter of using less water, but the nozzles are designed in a way where it basically creates a blade of water that the techs can really use much more effectively in a scouring mechanism to clean more effectively with a lot less water. So they've really come a long ways in their effectiveness. It can take a little bit of getting used to, like many times you have change in a work environment. But with a little bit of practice, these devices can be more effective and save a tremendous amount of water and energy. So again, from a high use standpoint, an average annual savings of about 50,000 gallons, and that's where you're looking at the 1.6 gallon per minute model and sort of splitting the difference of an older unit. The annual water savings is $375. Associated sewer savings is $138. Energy savings of about 7,600 kilowatts per year, with an equivalent of 532 with the hot water use, for a total savings of about 1,045. Just a no-brainer when you consider that. Gosh, if you call me, I think I even have a few of these in storage that we will provide to folks that have one that is outdated. and the change out time is about 5 minutes. So your savings and your payback is virtually instantaneous and will be sustained for quite some time. Really just a no-brainer if you have an older valve. And if you're not sure, reach out to your water provider and we can help you determine what your old unit is. Steamers are another great opportunity in a commercial kitchen. Really, it's just a matter of disconnecting a steamer from the boiler system. And while it's not necessarily an inexpensive thing, it really, steamers that are connected to the boiler systems are going to use about 5 to 10 times more energy and 30 times the water that a connectionless steamer will use. Connectionless also benefits from a simplified installation. You're not doing the metal work to connect this type of steamer to the boiler system, and you're going to have less boiler load and associated maintenance. So again, assessing the type of equipment you have in your facility, and this is where your water provider can help you with some research and opportunities to identify things that might work for you and associated paybacks with that. Moving into the sanitary and restroom environment, checking toilets and faucets for leaks should be a regular part of any leak detection plan. And if you're talking about tank type toilets, it's as simple as dropping a couple what we call dye tablets in the back of that tank, turning that tank water just a deep blue, letting it set for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then coming back to see if you've got dye in the bowl. And if you do, chances are you've got a leaky flapper, and that's a pretty simple fix. And that's one of those, we call it a silent leak. It's, they can sneak by you, not necessarily see it or hear it unless you do some sort of proactive testing like that. But it's occurring 24 hours a day, and it can really add up pretty darn quickly. But WaterSense labeled fixtures, this is where WaterSense really starts to make a big appearance, and that's the EPA product labeling program, very similar to the Energy Star program, only it's for water using fixtures. And the key thing is that WaterSense labeled plumbing products are certified to use at least 20% less water and perform as well or better than standard models. And they also, just to keep in mind, WaterSense labeled faucet aerators and shower heads will also help achieve that same sort of 20% savings. But again, they're also going to have the benefit of helping with embedded energy costs, because with showers and hand washing, we're talking about the use of hot water as well. One great resource, if you're looking at upgrading your home toilet or your residential toilet, your commercial toilets. And the difference many times in the commercial settings is that we're talking about units like this one on the right, which we call flush valves. And so both for the commodes and urinals, they're operated by a piston valve as opposed to the handle in a tank. Excuse me. Excuse me. A really great resource in terms of helping you select the right model for you is the MAP testing and rating website. It is really the industry standard, and we kind of think of it as the consumer reports for toilets, and helping consumers pick the right model for them or finding the most efficient model. They've really developed a testing protocol that goes way above and beyond what anyone else has done, and you can read all about it if you're interested. Probably more toilet information than you folks care to get, but in terms of helping you select a model that you can be confident in terms of its performance and its efficiency, just a really great website. And WaterSense is really a key piece of our criteria on our rebates. We use that labeling program similarly in that the products that we provide rebates for have to have that WaterSense label, and that's sort of our assurance that we've had third-party testing for performance and efficiency to ensure that these products are going to perform well and our customers are going to have a good result. Shifting over to outdoor water use. Again, as I mentioned, outdoor water use, both in the home and the commercial setting, can easily cause your water use to double and triple during the summer irrigating months. So it's really important to understand how you're doing that and really work to be a better manager of your system. There's almost always opportunities, just because landscapes are dynamic environments and things change year to year, and things really need to be maintained. It's not just, even if you have the best irrigation system and an irrigation controller, you can't just set it and forget it. Eventually you'll pay for it, because things get out of adjustment. Kids play with nozzles, dogs chew on nozzles, lawnmowers mow off nozzles. Things tend to sink in the landscape over time and need adjustment. Plants grow in the landscape and make things less effective. So really, it's really important to keep an eye on that and do your best to manage that. There are essentially three methods that you can use to improve your landscape irrigation efficiency. One, you can improve the hardware or the technology. So we're talking about things like efficient nozzles, sprinklers, irrigation controllers. You can improve the management, the maintenance, the scheduling. This is the human element, and a big opportunity generally. Irrigation systems that are well designed, well maintained, and well scheduled tend to be the most efficient. The third is reducing the plant water requirement. And these are activities more like where you're talking about reducing turf area, or and don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-turf. I'm more what I like to call pro-functional turf. And I don't care what that function is, but I just really encourage folks to think about all the different inputs that go into maintaining a healthy and aesthetically pleasing turf. But recreation, sports, leisure, a nice place to go hang out in your backyard or play with your kids or your dog. Turf has its place, but just again, consider all the different things that go into it: watering, fertilizer, mowing, debris removal. There's a lot of impacts or inputs that go into the lawn. And if you're the type of person that really enjoys that, knock yourself out. But just again, be aware of all the different things that you're putting into it, and the awareness that there may be other options that could be more attractive, or just more attractive from, again, a reduced input and maintenance standpoint. Certainly from a water intake standpoint, because turf is similar to like annual plantings. It tends to be one of the thirstiest things in the landscape. The other thing to think about from that standpoint is just putting the right plants in the right place, or grouping things together that have similar water requirements, fertilizer requirements, so that you can do both of those things effectively. If you have an irrigation system where you're combining turf, trees, and shrubs, makes it on the same zones, it makes it really difficult to irrigate those various plant types efficiently. So just some nuggets for thought. If your facility is irrigating the landscape, there's a good chance that water is being wasted due to runoff, evaporation, wind, and opportunities to improve management. Water efficient irrigation practices and technologies can help reduce the amount of unnecessary outdoor water use, typically by 30 to 50%, and that's pretty general across the board. Most landscape irrigation settings have a really great opportunity for improved efficiency. And one of the best ways to achieve that efficiency, particularly in the commercial setting where the systems themselves tend to be fairly well maintained and built, installing a weather-based irrigation controller is a way to kind of take that human element out of the scheduling question, and really makes it more, these controllers are much more intuitive to program. And then by the nature of the way that they function is they're using weather data, and whether that be from an on-site weather station, which you see in the image here, or on a residential application, Most of these devices are connected to the Wi-Fi system, similar to a lot of the other smart devices, and they're getting signal on weather forecast data, or they can also be connected to a small weather station at the home. It's much less intrusive than the device that you see here, which is obviously a commercial setup. But these devices are then using local weather information to make daily adjustments to the irrigation schedule automatically. So it really it represents a great opportunity from a conservation standpoint to take that human element out of the picture. For the most part, I'll come back to it a little bit, but just makes these automatic schedule adjustments on a daily basis based on real-time weather conditions at the local site. And it's just a huge opportunity. That's been one of our biggest struggles over the last 20 years is getting folks to make seasonal weather adjustments, let alone monthly, weekly, or daily adjustments to their irrigation system. Folks just, not only is time an issue, but it's tricky that folks just don't have that understanding of, well, what is the right adjustment to make? And this really helps us overcome that obstacle. So in terms of opportunity and payback on a commercial scale, this is just an example of kind of a business park example. Installation cost for the system was around $2,000. TVWD was able to provide a rebate of $400 for a project cost of $1,765. Pardon me, it looks like I was getting. Let's see if I can.
Sounds like you're getting a call there. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's okay. That's okay. It was a good moment to kind of pop in here. We're looking at another about 14 minutes. So,
Yeah.
and if we want to leave a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So I just want to kind of check in and yeah.
Perfect. Let me get through the last few things. We'll go pretty quickly. So just again, a great opportunity. These weather-based controllers, payback of 3-year on a commercial scale with the rebate that we have. Our rebate scales from 200 to 400 based on the number of zones that are being controlled. The great news on the residential scale is that, you know, these devices have come down dramatically in prices, anywhere from $50. You know, it's like anything else. You can spend as much as you want, but in most cases around $250. TVWD has a $50 rebate for the residential customer to help offset those costs. So again, it's just a great way to take that next step towards efficiency and eliminating the ability or the requirement of having to make those adjustments yourself. These multi-stream rotating nozzles are another great tool, both in the commercial and the residential landscape, to help overcome some design deficiencies. The streams have a much better distribution uniformity compared to standard spray nozzles. They operate at a much wider range of pressures, which is often a big issue on traditional spray zones. That, you know, and when you have a static pressure of generally 60 psi plus, that's a very common issue, and it leads to what's called high pressure misting. So the water is coming out so finely that just the slightest breeze can cause it to drift away, and you can lose 30% of your water intended to go on the landscape pretty easily. They also have matched precipitation across the adjustments, which means that the water, again, is very uniform across the entire zone, even when you make adjustments. Water is applied at a nice slow rate. So in areas like what we have in Washington County with clay soils and a lot of slopes, it helps reduce and avoid runoff. The rotating streams are also much more wind resistant compared to the typical sprays, so that it really cuts through the wind and makes sure that the water is going where it's intended. And again, we have a rebate for these types of products of $3 per nozzle, both in the commercial and the residential setting. Looking at more of some mechanical system opportunities, and this is again is your larger scale, you know, multifamily housing, hotels, motels, hospitals. If you have a cooling tower, this is part of your chilled water system. to help cool water using equipment or other equipment. The key with this is making sure that the water treatment for these systems is optimized. And the treatment is really designed to help minimize scale or biofouling, which reduces the efficiency of the cooling process. Fortunately, in our area, we have very soft, low total dissolved solids in our water. So we have a really good opportunity to have good, what we call cycles of concentration, or the amount of that this water has to build up before it has to be dumped down and then made up. And so really encourage folks to think about submetering these types of systems, both for the makeup water that goes into them and the blowdown water. That's the water once it reaches a certain level of total dissolved solid that it has to eventually be washed out to then freshen it up so that it can do its job efficiently. If you meter that for the difference, you can often apply for what's called an evaporative credit from the sewer agency. And in a commercial setting, these systems can use a tremendous amount of water, as the example indicates, that can result in a payback for an upgrade that we have here of about 2.3 years. But then again, on an ongoing basis, if you're able to sub-meter these systems, you can also avoid that evaporative loss cost associated with a system like this. Unfortunately, we don't still have the rebate for these systems, but the optimizing and the cost involved with that generally is still pretty attractive in terms of the payback. Services and resources that we have available, again, as from the conservation myself at TVWD, will help provide high water use assessments, high water bill consultations. We have complimentary efficiency devices that you can request if you're a TVWD customers. You can go on our website and request shower heads, kitchen and bath aerators, and those toilet leak test tablets that I mentioned. Again, just go on tvwd.org, go to the conservation section and request the devices, and you'll see all those things that are available to you. We have the rebates for high efficiency toilets, weather-based irrigation controllers, and the multi-stream rotating nozzles, both on the commercial and the residential setting. So really encourage you to consider how old are the fixtures that I have, or do I have an opportunity to upgrade? And if so, take advantage of our rebates to help you offset the cost of doing so. Again, very quickly, the Regional Water Providers Consortium is a really fantastic resource for indoor and outdoor water efficiency and emergency preparedness tips. We have downloadable brochures. Many of them are available in Spanish. The entire website has also been is available in Spanish. Lots of how-to videos in terms of do-it-yourself water efficiency projects at home, how to read your water meter, how to adjust your sprinklers, how to set your irrigation controller. We have a great tool if you don't have the ability or not ready to upgrade to weather-based irrigation controller. We have what's called the weekly watering number, which is a tool to help people understand how much their irrigation system puts down and how long it takes them to put down an inch a week, which is kind of the standard that we recommend across the season in our area. And a tool, actually the weekly watering number, is an email that we send out each week that helps you make a simple one-step adjustment to the older irrigation controllers that many folks still have in their homes. So it kind of takes the math out of it once you've done some initial work. So I encourage you to take advantage of that resource as well. We also have spring and fall irrigation checklists to help you through those turn-ons and turn-offs, and sort of do-it-yourself system assessments to help you make the most of it, and also, again, try and avoid those unnecessary costs. For our commercial folks, really the things that we talked about today, and much more with much more specificity, a lot more information on operations, maintenance, and education, how to set up a leak detection program, different resources on a much more in-depth amount of specific products that are available to you. Really encourage you, if you're a commercial setting, to download this resource and get familiar and put it to use it'll really be helpful in terms of setting up a, a water management program for your facility. This is the piece of the emerging technology, again, that I'm really excited about in the home sector. It's basically a strap-on device to the water meter that then connects to your Wi-Fi, and then you interface with your phone. This device basically reads your water meter in 5-second increments, and then basically helps you monitor your water use 24/7, 365. You can set water budgets and alarms. It really represents a huge step forward in terms of empowering our customers to take control of their water use. It's really hard when we bill at a 60-day interval for folks to get a good idea on how am I using water on a day-to-day basis? How is my behavior impacting my water use? So this is a really exciting new tool. And again, because, excuse me, it's just strapped on to the outside of the water meter. It's not an invasive thing. It doesn't require any plumbing. And the company is very helpful in terms of setting this thing up. They cost around $200. So a great thing to consider if you're looking at being more proactive with your water use at home. One thing to be aware of, if the city needs to do any maintenance, they may need to remove it. So you may need to reinstall it, and they won't be, responsible for anything. And it's certainly not something that is used to negotiate the water bill. The water bill will always still be driven off of the actual meter, but this is a fantastic tool to help folks, again, get an understanding of how am I really using water in the home. There are also devices that can be installed on the plumbing line, so it would require a plumber. But the neat sort of upgrade to these types of devices is that they actually have incorporated shutoff valves. So if you're away and you get a notification that, oh my gosh, it looks like there's a leak, you can actually activate a shutoff, turn that water off, and avoid any damage instantaneously. So a pretty neat device. And then just very quickly to wrap up, looking at the future, advanced metering infrastructure is something that TVWD is looking at. We just finished a business case analysis. And this is basically the water version of smart metering. And similar to the devices that we just mentioned, these would basically read the meters on 15-minute interval and provide us an opportunity to transition most likely to monthly billing, but also have a much more robust notification ability to let folks know, when we see issues on their water use. So rather than, waiting on our regular 60-day interval, we can really provide much more actionable information to our customers. This is not something that's going to happen quickly. So again, it really makes those previous devices that I mentioned much more attractive, sort of an interim solution to AMI for our customers to really take control of their water situation at home right now. And with that, I know we don't have a lot more time, but I'm available to stick around if you folks are too, but happy to take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, if anybody has a question, they want to put that in the chat or turn on their microphone, feel free to do that now. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one more time. And let's see, it looks like we have a thank you. So Emily says thank you and has to jump off, but wanted to say thanks. And I know that we got about 2 minutes here, so I will again be sending out these resources and the slideshow from all that Steve has presented this morning. And there are some really great, since we've recorded this, I can see that there will be some really great portions of this video that we can actually turn into 1 to 2 minute videos. We'll probably edit those down a little bit and share just very specific points during your presentation, and put those on our Facebook page and our YouTube page, and share those in our some of our communications. So yeah, that was that was a lot of information, and I know you have probably a heck of a lot more to share at some point, but yeah.
That's what I just wanted to jump in and say. Please, even if you're not a TVWD customer, feel free to use me as a resource. Reach out. I'm happy to help point you in the right direction in terms of your own water providers and resources that are available to you. But if questions pop up down the road, this is what I do. I work with folks to help them figure out how to be more water efficient. So if something comes up and you remember this contact information, please do reach out.
Yeah, for sure. We'll share that. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna just mention a few things here before we totally close out in the next minute. That our Green Business Leaders Program is in full swing again, and we are doing site visits and um, visiting with businesses who are going through their certification process. So doing verifications, we're delivering resources, all the recycling bins and posters and all of those goodies. I was going to have, let's see, Kate drop a few links in the chat. So if you get a chance to do that, Kate, that'd be great. What else? Just wanted to quickly run through a couple things. And our Green Business Award application is currently on our website. So we can get you connected with that Green Business Award or help assist during that process. So just basically, we are able to resume some of our education outreach practices we were doing in the previous to March of 2020, which is exciting. So thanks everybody. And thanks again, Steve, for all this great information. Really appreciate it. And again, I will share, do a follow-up with everybody that registered and we'll get you that info. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. Steve, have a great day.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, you too.